So welcome, I should say, welcome to Got Veg Plant-Based Eating 101, which is today's program. Our first presenter is Chelsea Inasic. Chelsea is the author of the blogs Whole Food Vegan and Walmart Vegan. She transitioned to a plant-based diet in 2012 and has participated in over 20 vegan events in Southern Maryland since that time. We also have Starla Maurer. She is a board certified Ayurveda clinical practitioner, certified life coach, Hakami, somatic psychotherapy student with less than a year until certification. She's a certified 500-hour yoga instructor, as well as a Jazzercise franchise owner and operator, as well as an animal rights activist. We also have Alyssa Kircher, who is a certified vegan lifestyle coach and educator, an animal rights activist and volunteer, and the organizer of the Southern Maryland Vegan Restaurant Week, which will begin next Sunday. So, make sure nobody else was asking to come in. So then we will go ahead and get started with Chelsea giving us some how-tos.
Hi, I'm Chelsea, and thank you, Kathy, for setting up this event. And I'm so happy we have so many people tuned in today, and I hope we get to hear lots of questions from everyone. So yeah, as Kathy said, I started eating a vegan diet in 2012 after I saw the documentary Forks Over Knives, which some of you may be familiar with. That was kind of like the one of the first best documentaries about plant-based eating, and I still really recommend it. It might still be on Netflix. So we saw that, and my husband and I just said, let's try this for 3 days, and we set out to do less than a week, and within those 3 days, we knew that we were feeling so much better in general. That it was going to stick. So that was in 2012, and we've had 3 children since then. So all 5 of us in the house, kids age 7, 5, and 2, and we're all doing great on a plant-based diet. And I'll kind of use the words plant-based and vegan interchangeably, but I would like to share my screen with you. Ta-da. Okay, so this is just kind of where I started posting pictures of my food that I was eating back then. And I kept that account. It's Whole Food Vegan on Facebook, and I made it also into a blog. And so I just wanted to kind of start by showing you like an overview of some of the foods that my family eats every day. So lots of greens, veggies. A lot of things are one-pot dishes. And pictures like this is showing like what I take with me when I've got the kids and we're going like to the park for the day, right? I've got jars of fruit, jars of peppers, cucumbers. This is just a can of beans that I rinsed off. And so we're eating stuff like that. But then I also have things like, brownies and pies. There's really no shortage of vegan recipes. And, oh, this is pizza. One of my first questions I had when I started eating vegan in 2012 was, what will I put on my pizza, right? It's going to be bread and vegetables. And like, yeah, that's what it is. But it's looking back on these pictures, it seems quite simple and basic. But I think that what has happened is over time, my tastes have changed, and it didn't take too long. So that these foods like are really, truly craveably delicious. I love this little picture here. So eating vegan is not complicated, and it's got breakfast is oatmeal with almond milk and some cut up banana. Lunch is beans and rice, taco shells, and some veggies on there. And then dinner, box of pasta, pasta sauce, and some veggies on the side. And so I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was a really good snapshot of a day's meals. And the other thing I want to show you is, this is the my actual blog that I started. It's not really active anymore, but I did want to just kind of, again, go through some of my pictures here just so you can get a glimpse of like what actually will be on your plate if you take off meat, dairy, fish, and foods that come from animals. These are some homemade Lar bars and veggie salad there, chocolate chip cookies. These cupcakes I made, they won a blue ribbon at the county fair. I was very happy about that. Mac and cheese. This mac and cheese, there are many, many excellent vegan mac and cheese recipes. I like one that uses sweet potato and cashews in the sauce. One thing that I think is a good tip is I don't like to make food that, I don't like to bend over backwards to make food that is trying to look like a non-vegan thing I used to eat, right? So veggie burgers for me, it's been 8 years. I haven't found a recipe for veggie burgers that is like super easy and that I love, that everyone loves. So I just said, you know what? Like, these recipes are taking 5-6 steps and 90 minutes, and I'm just not going to try to make burgers anymore. And so that was going to be okay for my family. All right, so that's just a little overview of, pictures of food. And the other thing I wanted to share is this little slideshow, because we're talking about how to, right? So what actually are we not going to eat, and what actually are we eating? And this is from my favorite plant-based doctor, Dr. McDougall. And he has this free, he's on YouTube, check him out. He's really intense and funny. So that's why I like him so much. But he also answers, he was a big answer for all of my very first questions. How am I going to get my protein? Am I going to get enough omega-3s? Are my kids going to do okay? So I highly recommend Dr. McDougall. So obviously, we're not eating meat. Poultry, fish. Dr. McDougall likes to say that a muscle is a muscle is a muscle, right? Whether it moves a hoof or swishes a tail. So he's saying stay away from those. But also eggs and milk and cheese, all not part of a vegan diet. Butter. And then this is also a red light food for the most healthful vegan diets. Fake meats and cheeses. They're very delicious, but like a lot of very delicious things, we can kind of tell like if that's the most healthful choice or not. So fake meats and cheeses I save for, birthdays, holidays, Thanksgiving, and even if they are vegan. So, but that's just me, just my family. Another good way, especially if you're looking for a way to, if you want one of the benefits of eating a vegan diet to be weight loss, cutting out vegetable oils and all oils is an excellent way of doing that. So all oils, vegetable oil, corn oil, flaxseed, olive oil, coconut oil, they're very concentrated source of fat and calories. In fact, there's no more concentrated source of fat than vegetable oils. And one thing I found is that when I cut out vegetable oils as a rule, and I said, okay, I'm not going to eat that. What's that going to look like? I realized that really eliminated a lot of junk food, French fries and chips, and because they had oil, even though they were vegan, I was gonna not eat those, and so I saw a lot of good health benefits from that. Skip this one. Okay, so what are we gonna eat? The heart of my family's vegan diet is starchy foods. So, and I'm sure he has it right here. Yeah, cold cereals, so whole grain, wheat, rice, corn, millet, oatmeal. I buy like a 25-pound bag of oatmeal. And it kind of looks like I'm going to feed a horse, but it's really for my 5 family members. And so we're eating oatmeal for breakfast every day. But also oatmeal is really helpful for baked goods. You can make a pie crust out of oat flour and dates and like almond butter. I mean, there's a lot you can do with oatmeal. And it's very, when Quaker Oats says it's heart healthy, it really truly is. So that's one piece of marketing that we can really agree with. So eat lots of pancakes made with whole wheat flour, oat flour. Oil-free hash brown potatoes is on his list. Bean soups. Soups are really good. Soups and pasta. And it's because they contain a lot of water that they're very filling for a small amount of calories. And you might not think that about pasta, right? Because you buy it and it's dry. But what you do is, of course, boil it and rehydrate it. So pasta and soups are, whole grain pastas and soups are really good to eat. We have a lot of curries and brown rice. Potatoes. So the reason he's going through starchy foods is because they have the sugars that your brain and your body most need to function. So that kind of sometimes sets off an alarm when people hear, well, these sugars are good for you, right? You don't too often hear you're supposed to stay away from carbs, right? And I'm saying that, and Dr. McDougall says that carbs are really the heart of what we need. And the difference is between unhealthful carbs and healthy plant carbs is how refined they are. So I don't use, white sugar unless it's like something really special that I need to do. But those refined white sugar is like so immediately accessible to your body that it does have bad effects on blood sugar. But if you eat the starches in their most complete form, the body can really take its time to get to them and give you like a slow peak of blood sugar. And we need some blood sugar to make our bodies go. So that's why starches are really, and they're filling, whole grain bread. So whole grain bread, but not slathered with butter. I actually do a lot of baking and make a lot of bread. Yeah, I love what this says here. Bread is known as the staff of life for good reasons, because cultures have been using it as a center of their diet all around the world, very successfully. Trim and healthy people, yeah. So we do whole grain pastas, lasagna, pizza again. And so here's another great example of, you could put some shredded Daya or vegan cheese on this pizza, and it would be totally delicious and completely vegan. But for my family, it would be a treat to do that. Yeah. brown rice, rice and vegetable dishes. Dr. McDougall always points out that that his patients that are first generation from China and Japan are typically very trim and healthy, and they eat a lot of rice. And then as the subsequent generations eat more of the standard American diet, people start to see those ill effects from that. So rice is really good, really healthy. Vegetable sushi. This is a kid pleaser because you can eat with your fingers. My kids really like sushi. And we just put avocado, carrots, cucumber, beans, whole grains, and veggie burgers. Not my favorite, but okay. And then eat some fruit. So on top of the starches are the center and like the bottom of my pyramid, right? And then eat some on top of that fruits, 1 to 4 pieces a day, Dr. McDougall says. And yeah, 1 to 4 pieces of fruit would be people don't eat fruit. Like people really don't eat enough fruit. So 1 to 4 might seem like a lot to someone who's not eating a lot of plants. But yeah, so I don't have anything to add about that. I just love fruit. And then on top of the fruit, non-starchy vegetables. So one sort of pitfall in someone who's trying to eat vegan is they might want to center these non-starchy green vegetables on their plate and think, well, I need to eat a big bowl of lettuce, and then in an hour they're hungry, and then they might reach for something. Well, this is not working for me. I'm going to get, whatever I am used to eating. So it's another great reason to start with the starch because it's very filling. If you eat a nice big bowl of oatmeal with some fruit, fresh or dried fruit, and like some walnuts on there, it's going to keep you a lot more full than some steamed broccoli, which I love steamed broccoli, but definitely center the starches. So McDougall says, be careful about tofu and other natural soy because, tofu it comes from beans, soybeans, right? And it's really delicious. My kids love it also, but I let my kids eat it more than I eat it because they're growing and they have like no upper limit on their calorie needs right now. So we have baked tofu 3-4 times a week. And I just I'll eat like 2 little pieces just as a condiment to add some flavor and deliciousness to my meal. And then nuts and seeds fall kind of in the same category as tofu. They're full of healthful fats, but they are very, calorie dense because they're so fat filled. So they're fine to eat, but if weight loss is a goal, I would totally moderate nuts because it's so easy. Like at the end of a day, a stressful day, like I'm going to go to the peanut butter jar with a spoon. And so that's something that I try to look out for because I know it's very calorie dense. And the same with avocados. Dried fruits, the same thing. Since they're dried, they're not, obviously they don't have all that water. They're not water rich. So the calories are concentrated a little bit more. And it's easy to overeat on them. Think of how many fresh apricots you could eat. I don't know, I could eat like 4, maybe 4 or 5 compared to dried apricots, right? In a handful of dried apricots, I could eat 10. So that's something to look out for. And the same with juices. The idea with a whole food vegan, or what I'm saying is a healthful vegan diet, is to keep your food in its most whole form, right? Eating an apple versus apple juice, because the body can really take its time to get its nutrients out of there. And salt, sugar, and spice, just another thing to look out for. The more exciting food is, and the more variety of food people eat, the more quantity and calories that they do eat. So totally fine to have a variety, but if weight loss is a goal, I would just pick 3 or 4 meals and just eat those again and again. There's even a, vegan plus idea of mono mealing, where you just eat like one thing for a week. And yeah, so that's a how-to. That's a basic how-to. And here's Dr. McDougall and Mary. So I do recommend checking them out. And yeah, that's all I have to share.
Okay, thank you, Chelsea. And then now we will have Starla Maurer to talk about some of the health impacts of eating a plant-based diet.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I had to hit the button a couple times. I see all you people hiding. What are you hiding for? You need to see your faces. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the health impact, and I'm actually, oh, there we go. Hey, Kathy. And I see Rosalba, which is my sister, so be nice. Hi, Carol, William, Jackie. It's nice to see you guys. Okay, so I'm actually going to talk about the health benefits, and I'm really going to talk about what impacted me. So I can discuss, the different things health-wise, but realistically, if you want to hear the real truth, I'm going to tell you what happened with me. I had tried to go vegan off and on, and like Chelsea was saying, if you don't really know the vegan lay of the land, it's really hard. I thought I was the lone vegan in Southern Maryland until I met Alyssa, and it was like, there's another one here. So it's nice because like I said, if you don't know the lay of the land, it's really hard to sort of figure things out. And my poor daughter-in-law was sort of stuck. She called me the other day and she said, I tried a Dr. Prager's kale burger. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? Did you really? Was it good? And she goes, no. And I said, of course it's not good. I don't even know what it's made out of. But the thing is when you start to go vegan, everyone overthinks it. I really suggest for people, especially if you're not someone like me that's totally jumping in with both feet. Most people get something in their life happens where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to change things. And that's what happened to me. I had noticed that, yes, my weight was creeping up, and I'm a fitness instructor. And I was like, well, this is odd. I kept teaching more and more and working out more and more, and nothing was working. And I had had an accident, hurt my shoulder. I actually picked up my dog and tore my shoulder to pieces. And so I was out for 6 months, and I saw a thing at PCRM, and they're local, they're in DC. And it's Dr. Neil Barnard. He and some of the other doctors were doing a thing, plant-based diet and metabolism. So they were going to put you on a low-fat plant-based diet and check out your metabolism. And I thought, why not? Let's do it. So they went in there and we all did all these tests. You had to lay under a tent, and they did a thing where they did a body scan to check your bone density. And all I could tell you is I looked like this big, huge black blob. And I was like, no, are you kidding? So that freaked me out. But then when I got the test results back, I just completely fell apart. I was 0.1 point away from going on like metformin for diabetes because my A1C was so high. My cholesterol was over the top, and it's never been like this before. My triglycerides were high, but what really got me was my creatinine levels were so low they weren't even showing up, and that's muscle wasting. It also will show things like fatty liver, things like that, which I probably had at the time, but I just came apart. So I thought, well, I'm jumping in with both feet. And I had been sort of vegan-ish, but again, I didn't know the lay of the land. So, and, you know, I would ask Alyssa all these questions, and it was just really hard because I just didn't know what to do. And I thought, well, great. So I was accepted into their program. So I started into their program, and just like Chelsea was saying, I am a low-fat vegan. I very rarely will use oil. I can tell you exactly what I use oil for, and that's when I put it when I make tamales. So, because if you don't have them in the tamales, they taste horrible. I've tried them both ways. But the thing is I adjust my diet during the day. I am an athlete. So, and I'm constantly working out, teaching classes. And just so you know, this diet really does work for people who work out and who are exercising all the time, because last month in September, I rode 1,048 miles on my bike to raise money for children's cancer. And I did a 100-mile ride, you know, just straight up on the bike in July, training for this ride. And was I sore the day of it? Yes. The next day, man, I got up and taught a class. My recovery time is like that. So I have none of that, you know, delayed muscle soreness. I don't feel, I mean, every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I felt that class. But it's very often. I mean, I feel a little thing here and there, and I'm 59 years old. Most 59-year-olds don't get on their bike and, you know, ride 100 miles or take a month and ride 1,000 miles. It's just not, you know, it's not normal. I don't know a lot of people my age that do that. And then the other thing was, while I was doing, so that's a plus on the fitness side. But the other thing was, while I was doing the work with Dr. Barnard, and we were all on this diet, we had to go in every week and they would check our weight, which was humiliating. But anyway, they did it. They checked our weight. While I was in this program, my husband and I had scheduled to go out to dinner on our anniversary. And instead of going on our anniversary, he was complaining of stomach pain. We went to the hospital, and Rick had a very large hole in his colon and had colon cancer. And within 24 hours, they said he has colon cancer. And another 24 hours later, they did emergency surgery and gave him a colostomy and said, you're going to start treatment. So he had stage 3C colon cancer. One of the things that happens with colon cancer is the way they give you the medication, you're taking oxaliplatin, which causes you to not be able to drink things that are cold. So Rick had to eat warm, nourishing meals. And as an Ayurveda practitioner, that's what we always tell our clients. You need to stop eating the cold stuff. Don't use a lot of ice. And I thought, well, this is really interesting. So the first day we go to chemo, and now I'm still in the program, but the first day we went into chemo, and this is at Calvert Hospital, they said, oh, you know, Mr. Maurer, would you like lunch? And he said, sure. And they brought him in, not kidding, a cheeseburger, potato chips, soda, and a fruit cup that was like that big. And he said to me, do you want the fruit cup? And I was like, because it was out of a can. So they brought him that, and and at the time I was in my last year for holistic medicine. And that's what Ayurveda is holistic medicine. And I kept thinking, what in God's name are you guys doing? You're giving him a cheeseburger. You can't wash the crap out of the meat, and you definitely can't wash the stuff out of the cheese. What's going on? So I went back in, and the following week. And the doctors there knew that I had to tell them because I missed a week. And that was a week Rick was in the hospital. And I said, you know, he started chemotherapy and they brought this stuff in, and just there was a hush over the room. And Dr. Barnard said, well, that's one of the biggest problems is when you try to change your diet, it's like everywhere you turn, and even in a hospital. And the thing is, it's not like they're trying to create repeat customers, but they're trying to create repeat customers. What we did was, I never said anything to my husband. I didn't force him. I just said, hey, I can't eat this way. So can you, you know, fix, like, we're going to have this for dinner. We're going to do that. Would you like some? And with the chemo, he couldn't eat anything cold. So he started eating the same way I did. Now, I wasn't using any meat. I was 100% vegan, like the fake meats, and I wasn't using any oils. And we were allowed in this study 30 grams of fat or less. I kept mine at 20 or less. And Rick started to notice that he never got sick. He never lost his hair. He didn't have any ill effects. We were walking 5 miles 4 or 5 times a week. And that was at the time, that was the only exercise that we in this program were allowed to do, was we were allowed to walk. So, because they had to keep us sort of strict. And the thing was, he felt better. And that every time he would go back in to the hospital, you know, you have to go in every other week is what his schedule was. For 6 months, we did this. And they would take his blood and it kept getting better and better. And it wasn't even me that was doing this. It was him. So he kept walking in and the doctor was like, what are you guys doing? What is going on? People in the infusion center were asking what was happening because he never looked sick. And I would see people coming in there and they just looked absolutely miserable. And then they started to notice that we weren't eating the same thing that they were eating. We didn't eat they would bring in, oh, well, here's a salad. You can have a salad. And the salad was covered with dressing, like the thick dressing and meat and cheese. And even the nurses were like, well, what are you doing? Why are you eating that? You know, and we asked, can we bring in our food? And I said I was on a special diet and I was in a program, so I couldn't mess up. And they said, sure. And so everybody in the infusion center started to notice that Rick he never had that pasty, like the chemo look that you can get. So that's what we noticed with him. And in the end, he had no ill effects. He was able to reverse the colostomy. His doctors they keep saying, if I didn't know that you had stage 3 colon cancer, I would, if I didn't know for a fact you had it, I would never know you did just by looking at you and looking at your numbers. His numbers are normal. They're 100%. He has remained eating this way, low-fat vegan. I remain low-fat vegan. And when I first started this, I could tell you that my joints were just aching. I would have chronic headaches. My stomach would hurt. And this was while I was fit. And what really threw me was the creatinine levels just falling off and being so low that, you know, they didn't even show up. And I just a month ago had a bunch of blood work done and gone in to see, you know, the physician, went in for a yearly checkup, and everything is in that normal range. The only thing I take, and like Chelsea was saying, showing you the B12, I don't take B12 because my body doesn't need it. I eat so much green stuff. And I don't walk around eating kale salads either. I eat potatoes and sweet potatoes. I mean, it's not hard to be vegan. And if you want to start and just sort of lean into it, you can lean into it with just a meal, one meal, just try one meal, or take one day out of your week and do something. And if you see a recipe that has more than like 5 ingredients, go to the next one. It's not rocket science to do this. all the fake meats and cheeses, I can tell you that you probably aren't going to like them because your palate's not used to it. I had to be off meats and cheeses for probably about a year before I noticed. Then like, you know, every now and then I'll go to Ruddy Duck down here and I'll have an Impossible Burger. And that's like, I'm just like, yes, because I'm all excited because it's, you know, I don't eat burgers that often, but you know, if we're going out or something, I'll do something like that. And for me, it tastes the same. I don't notice a difference. But if you don't give yourself a chance to sort of get away from the foods, then your palate's constantly looking for that taste and you're not going to find it and then you're going to hate it. I can tell you the first time I ever smelled diet cheese, I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? I was like, no. And now I smell it and I'm like, oh, that smells good. So it's just, the thing is that you have to get used to it, but there's no real freak out. I mean, if you make a mistake and you eat something and if you use oil or whatever, that's fine. Don't kick yourself. Just get back on it. It's not that hard to eat like a plant-based diet. It really isn't. And it's not, you don't have to eat salads. It's starting to get colder now, so soups are amazing. And I make a potato leek soup that has absolutely no oil in it. Kathy's eating soup. But yeah, so it doesn't take rocket science. And I know that, oh, there goes my alarm system. We have rescues. They let us know if somebody walks in. Could you get the dogs? And tell my husband to get the dogs. But the thing is that it's literally potatoes, leeks, and vegetable broth. I cook everything with vegetable broth. It's very, very easy. It's not that hard. And again, as an athlete, especially an older athlete, the thing I need is an anti-inflammatory diet. I do not take like Motrin or anything like that. I can't take that stuff. It just tears up my stomach. I think the hardest thing I take is Tylenol and extra strength Tylenol. But the diet, a vegan diet, is an anti-inflammatory diet. And if you all remember, I guess a few years ago, there was that, I can't even remember his name. There was a doctor that was touting, you know, oh, your face will be gorgeous and all this, you know, just eat a vegan diet. And that's pretty much what it was. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. So if you have issues with like stiff joints, arthritis, things like that, this is an amazing diet. And I'm like Chelsea in that I'll eat, I do like tofu, but I don't like it all the time. And it's a pain in the butt because you got to get all the water out of it. So, so it's just like an extra step for me. And like, if I'm hungry, I'm hungry. My go-to meal is always oatmeal or, I was just telling Alyssa this the other day. My go-to meal is a bag of spinach that I'll wilt in a little bit of vegetable broth with a little bit of garlic powder and onion powder and some mushrooms I'll just throw in there. And I mean, it doesn't make a lot, you know, it's the bag. So it just makes this little thing. So I usually have that and some oatmeal with some fresh fruit on it. And there you go. And I mean, it's easy and I'm full. I love to cook. So I like to make soups and stuff like that. But, you know, I just can't handle heavy stuff. It's very easy. So I just, you know, I don't have a slideshow or anything. I only have me. So, and the loud dogs. But yeah, it's nice to see so many people that are really veg curious, because I think the thing is if you do, like Chelsea was saying, take 3 days or really give yourself a month, 3 weeks. It takes 3 weeks to change a habit. So there's my baby, Kathy's bird. I'm afraid of birds, but not that one. So, but if you give yourself about 3 weeks, you'll notice that things start to change. And the other thing is, Now here I'm going to go into holistic medicine. You will be able to go to the bathroom and it won't be little rabbit pellets. You won't be constipated. You can like your digestive tract is really long and you really need to get the waste out of there, because when it just sits there, like when you eat meat or a very heavy like fat laden diet or food, sort of sits in your stomach and it takes a while to process through. And that was the thing with my husband going through chemotherapy. Food wasn't sitting in his stomach, so he wasn't nauseous. It was going through like it normally should and digesting properly without a lot of, extra digestive juices to break down everything in his stomach. So that's why that was working with chemotherapy. And I will say, if anybody has any loved ones going through any type of cancer treatment or anything like that, definitely get away from meat and dairy, because it does feel better. And I know they're probably like, I want to eat my steak, I want my chicken, whatever. If you have to do that, that's fine, do that. But go back to it after you're done and at least try it while you're going through treatment or while they're going through treatment. They will be very happily surprised that it doesn't slam them into the floor like it did Rick. Everyone is different, but the amount of destruction on your body is just decreased by so much. So anyway, that's all I have to say. And I think Alyssa is coming up next.
Alrighty, so yes, next we have Alyssa Kircher, who will be talking about the environmental impact of a plant-based diet.
Hey, am I unmuted? I always have problems with that. Thank you. And hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's so good to see you. And again, thanks to Kathy and to the Calvert Library for organizing this, because it's such a great thing. So I am going to talk about kind of the other end of the spectrum. And, whether you, for whatever reason we come to veganism or being plant-based, it usually is for different reasons. Mine is from an animal rights perspective and for ethical reasons, but I say that, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn and grow from that as well, and to realize all the other benefits or all the impacts that, cutting animals out of your diet and your lifestyle truly, what kind of role it plays on everything. And so I say that with just a little bit of a backstory. Back in 2013, when I was working in DC, for years, I was always chronically sick. I was always achy. I never felt well, always had headaches and stomach issues. And one day I was home sick from work, ironically, and or naturally. And I just started, I was looking around on the internet and stumbled across an undercover video of a slaughterhouse investigation. And so, being the animal lover that I always was, I knew at that moment that I just couldn't contribute to this any longer, because it was one of those things where I knew it was happening, but if I didn't have to see it, if I didn't have to face it, if I didn't have to acknowledge it, then I could still go about my life. And being forced to see that was literally right then and there. That's it, done. I'm not contributing to this anymore. But I say that at the time, I didn't even know what veganism was. I had no one at work, in colleagues, in my social circles, in my family, friends, you name it. No one was on that path or talking about that in any way whatsoever. So there wasn't any of that type of influence. So I didn't realize all the other benefits. But once I started cutting out, or once I eliminated animals from my diet, then all of those aches and pains and all of those stomach issues, all of those headaches, all of that stuff magically went away. And so then I realized from that, oh my goodness, there's so much more out there. And so I just wanted to highlight that, because you just never know how it might speak to you and how that may pivot into learning about other things as well, and how much of an impact it all has. So I am going to talk about the environmental impact, and we really can't talk about veganism without talking about the environmental impact and the resources impact that it has. And I know this is just a 101, so I'm going to try and keep it at just, you know, very minimal amount of details to share with you, but I think it is truly important when we're in a time where sustainability of our food is so important, and where we get our food and the future of the planet is something that we have to pay attention to, and animal agriculture tremendously plays a part in that. And so we have to talk about it, and we can't talk about veganism or plant-based without at least touching on that. So I am going to be focusing my little presentation off of mainly this book. It's called Eat for the Planet. And I picked this up about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And it is my go-to resource for everything. I don't know if you can tell, but I basically have every single page in here marked. And that's how good it is. And it's little, it's tiny. So I actually keep this in the car with me, because I pull out, you never know when you're going to get into a conversation with somebody, or somebody that's trying to, you know, talk you out of something, or fight with you, or argue with you. And I'm like, no, listen to this. And this has all the stats, numbers, pretty pictures. And then it also has all the resources and all the science in the back too. So it's not just a bunch of stats without any type of science behind it. It's all in there as well. So I highly recommend picking this up. And I think the Calvert Library is going to be carrying it as well, so you can check it out there too. But I'm going to be basing like 98% of what I'm showing you, what I'm talking about today. So bear with me. I know I'm at the end, and I know we're probably getting tired, but I have a lot of stats, but I'm going to try and consolidate everything quickly, because I think it's important just to put the numbers into perspective, just to give an idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to share my screen with you. The largest number, actually, to go over real quick, I think the last time I looked, it's about 77 billion. We consume or slaughter around 77 billion land animals and trillions of sea animals every single year worldwide, just for human food alone. So if you think about that, it's like, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head really around that. And that actually equates to Americans eating 1 million animals every single hour. 1 million every single hour just in America alone. So for a little reference, I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see that? I was trying to do like the full screen. Oh, well, it's not working. So if you can, I can't really. This graphic I thought was kind of puts a lot into perspective too, because over 50% of the planet's land surface is occupied by the global industrial livestock system. So look at how small of a chunk that humans play into all of that. And the rest of that is animals. Almost the rest of that is animals for us to consume. I mean, and that's not even counting animals that we use for testing on them in laboratories, on cosmetics testing, for fur, clothing, all of the unnecessary things that humans use animals for. So that alone is, I think, pretty telling, especially whenever we have, you know, what, 7.5 billion people on the planet, and look at that. So it's pretty incredible. Let me change this to, Does anybody know how to set it to full screen without, I haven't done it on sharing my screen before because I'm trying to do the, I've done the Command L, I've done, there we go.
Got it? Okay.
Okay, good, yay, okay. All right, so moving on, sorry about that. 40% of the world's grain is fed to livestock while nearly 1 billion people go to bed hungry every night. So all the food that we could be feeding people that need it is actually going to animals that are feeding us that when we don't even need to do that. So I have everything broken out into, there's like 4 quick little sections. So the next one I'm going to cover talks about resources and the impact of resources. And then that kind of moves into climate. Okay, so it takes about 1,800 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef, whereas it takes about 119 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of potatoes. It takes about 1,000 gallons of water to produce 1 gallon of milk. And that, you know, is all the water that's going to keep the animals alive, right? So think about how less of an impact footprint you're having just by switching to plants in and of itself from that alone. In 1 year, by switching to a plant-based diet, each of us saves up to 547,500 gallons of water, 16,425 pounds of grain, and 10,950 square feet of forest area. Speaking of forest area, 1 to 2 areas of rainforest are cleared every second for livestock and feed crops. 1 to 2 acres every single second. So what does that mean? That means up to 137 plant, animal, and insect species are lost every day due to rainforest destruction / habitat, or due to animal agriculture / habitat destruction. I thought this graphic was pretty telling.
Are you changing your graphics? Because
You can't see them?
mm-mm.
Oh no. Yes.
Here, try doing your screen share again, Alyssa.
I'm sorry guys, because I've been sharing screen shots with you the whole time and you're like, what? All right, what about now?
It's the
Okay, so-
UN one with the, yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
There we go. Mm-hmm.
Got it, okay. So I talked about the rainforest, I talked about the 137 plant, animal, and insect species are lost every day due to rainforest destruction. And then this slide I thought was, or this graphic I thought was just pretty telling in and of itself, because we're literally eating everything into extinction unnecessarily, completely unnecessarily. On that note, every minute around the rest of the world, 7 football fields of land are bulldozed to create more room for livestock. And that means 1,600 fewer trees every 60 seconds are cut down to help keep excess carbon dioxide from contributing to pollution and climate change. 1,600 trees every minute. On that note about climate change and global warming, animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions, which includes methane, nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, et cetera, than the entire transportation sector. And you know what all that methane is, right? It's all the cow poop, and it's a lot. In fact, livestock is responsible for 65% of all human-related emissions of nitrous oxide, which has 296 times the global warming potential of carbon dioxide, and which stays in the atmosphere for up to 150 years. Next, I am going to keep talking about that a little bit, but kind of transition into the health aspect or the health impact of all of that. So the environmental hazards directly impact our health as well. And 80% of ammonia emissions in the US come from animal waste, which pollutes our air, water, and leads to illness, especially for communities near factory farms, including right here in Maryland. I actually went up to Eastern Shore and where they have a lot of the chicken factory farms, and they supply Tyson and all those guys. And if you're familiar with that area, you've been up there, I mean, you can smell it, you can see it in the air. It's horrific. And, you know, factory farms and animal agriculture like this typically, you know, is found in areas where, you know, it's disproportionate to everybody else. In fact, back in August of 2018, Smithfield Foods, which is the largest pork producer, or what I rather say pig killer in the world, was ordered to pay an unprecedented $473 million to North Carolina residents because of the stench and toxicity of dead animals and animal waste causing illness and disturbance to residents. So it's pretty incredible that a company like that actually, enough people are saying, hey, look, we're tired of this, and they lost. So it really is having consequences. Staying on that note, once water is used in the industrial farming system, it becomes polluted with animal waste, and it is so teeming with antibiotics, hormones, and bacteria that it cannot be returned to the water system. Speaking of antibiotics, 80% of them, 80% that are sold in the US are for livestock to promote growth in animals and to keep them alive in horrific conditions. As a result, countless new strains of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, also known as superbugs, have formed, which means when we get sick, the antibiotics we need may no longer work. So everything really is connected with one another, with everything. So I just kind of want to also talk about just for a second how, you know, we're in the middle of this pandemic, and, you know, it really has given us a wake-up call to our food system and how our food system is broken. You know, there were, I got over, I think the last time I saw, I know this number is higher, but over 25,000, you know, meat packing employees that were, you know, that contracted COVID, and were forced to work in these conditions. But then when they shut them down, all these animals then they're already, you know, bred to be killed. And then on top of it, they're killed because no one can process them. And so it just goes to show how broken our entire food system is, and how we need to change it. And it starts with animal agriculture. And it truly goes to show that it's at the root of where we are today. The way we treat animals used for food, the way we confine them in conditions that breed disease and infection. And just like SARS, Ebola, HIV, they weren't the first infectious diseases that spread to humans due to animal exploitation. And COVID-19 certainly won't be the last. There's injustice on every level for the animals, for the planet, for us. And food inequality and food injustice is something that needs to have a bigger voice. And I think that this pandemic has shown us that we just need to listen, and we need to make sure that this ends. And we have the tools to do it. We have the power to do it. We have the knowledge to do it. We need to implement it. And I wanted to mention, remember Smithfield, just last month, a new strain of coronavirus was discovered in pig feces on one of their factory farms in California, which has the potential to mutate and become deadly to humans. So like I was saying, you know, COVID-19 is just one example. So in closing, I know I covered a lot and there's so much more to cover, and this was just a small taste of everything. And again, that's why I recommend getting this book, because it truly is eye-opening on so many levels. I know it can sound overwhelming and depressing, but it must be talked about in order for change to happen. I also just want to mention too, and to not end on a completely negative, depressing note, that just remember that being vegan isn't about perfectionism, and it's truly about doing your personal best to cause the least amount of harm to everyone and to everything. And because it does make a difference for so many every day, and to not give up, and to know that there are resources out there, and there are people out there, and there are tools out there that are waiting to help and welcome you, because it really does matter. And it matters, you know, not just for us, but for everyone around us and for all living beings. And, you know, the most important thing we can do, I think, is extend kindness to all, and it really makes a difference. And this one final graphic, I just wanted to show you, just to hit home on that, you know, every day, it really matters, and you're positively contributing to making something better. So the big numbers can seem daunting, and it seems like a lot, and it seems like one person one day isn't doing anything, but it is. And I hope that gives a little bit of clarity to everything. So I think that was it. Oh, I lied. I had to include this because everybody says, but I can never give up cheese. And I think every single vegan has said that before they became vegan. And I think every vegan has heard that, if, you know, 1,000 times, you know, and we'll continue to hear it 1,000 times, because cheese is so, you know, it's one of those things. It's a comfort food. It's addicting, and it has qualities in it that make our brains think that we need to become, or that we are addicted to it. It truly does on a chemical level as well. So there are cheeses out there. I know that it's a treat, and, you know, it's not something to eat all the time, but there are fantastic vegan plant-based cheeses out there now, like Mayoko's, and they truly are getting better, I think, every single day, and they're found everywhere now. When I moved here in 2014, I literally didn't know how I was going to survive, because the only place I could get anything was at the Good Earth. And of course, I'm still going to, you know, say support local. But it truly, I think, is a testament to see in all of the big box stores now, in that short amount of time, that everything is found locally. And so you can get it everywhere. So you don't have to give up cheese. It's just a different kind of cheese. And so it's better for you anyway. And so I think that's it. And I wanted to touch on real quick, as a reminder, Vegan Restaurant Week down here in Southern Maryland begins next Sunday. So please, please, please get out there and support these restaurants. Please try the food. I think that this event right now is a perfect opportunity to segue into that, because if you don't know where to go, or if you don't know what to eat, or if you don't know what to order whenever you go out, these restaurants are specially creating things for us and for all diners. You know, I want vegans to go and support, but at the same time, you know, it's more about, I want the veg curious and the pre-vegans to get out there and try food as well, just to see how delicious it is. And so please get out there and support these restaurants if you can, and follow the Facebook page, because we're doing a gift card contest, so where you can win a gift card to go from each place to go back as well. So check it out and let me know if you have any questions. So I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you, Alyssa. So now we have a chance for Q&A. So anybody with any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions of any of our presenters.
Alyssa, I'll start. I want to know if there are any different restaurants participating in Calvert County this year that didn't do it last year that you know of.
Maya unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Sorry. No, so everybody's invited and I reached out to all of them. And so I think the only one that is participating that didn't last year was Hook and Vine up in North Beach.
Okay.
And they participated we did Veganuary in January and they participated in that, but they weren't a part of Vegan Restaurant Week last year. So I think they're the only ones in Calvert that are new, but it was a struggle a little bit this year because, you know, I had one restaurant just come out that participated last year that they flat out said, you know, due to dining restrictions because of COVID, we're not participating in any type of marketing or any type of anything this year. Even though they were one of the most popular ones last year, they're like, we're just not doing anything. And so it's kind of, I completely respect and understand that as well. But at the same time, I was really hoping to use this as an opportunity to give these extra businesses some more business.
So they turned down the opportunity for free marketing.
And that's where
that's crazy. I don't understand as a business owner. I don't understand that on any level.
No, there were times where I was really frustrated because I'm like, oh my gosh, because it literally is. It's free marketing, it's free advertising, it's free, it's extra business, it's you know, reaching out to another customer set that we're here that are wanting to give you business. And so it's like, and all you don't even have to have a separate vegan menu. It's just, you can just have one dish, just one dish.
Right.
And
which restaurant was it? I just want to know because I thought I might reach out to them and say, hey, are you guys participating in Vegan Restaurant Week this year?
Yeah, I'll message you.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's
yeah, please do.
I mean, I understand not wanting to, because I'm not doing any marketing that costs me money right now because the event industry is dead.
Yeah.
You know, but if I had an opportunity to do some free marketing, man, I'd jump on that with both feet.
I know. And you don't even need to buy extra ingredients, like specially for us. I mean, that's the other thing about vegan food. Or animal-free food. I mean, it just is literally, it's stuff that you already have in your pantry or in your restaurant kitchen that you can pull together and make something. And when I send out the invite list, I give them an example of, you know, 10 different restaurants and different blog sites of recipes. Cause I'm like, if you need inspiration, here are restaurants that are already doing it. Here's their menu. Here's, you know, recipe sites, you know, go on to Rabbit and Wolves is my go-to for everything because it's the best comfort food ever. And so I'm like, just go and replicate one of her dishes and I'll be there every day. And so it just is, it is frustrating because it's like, you don't even have to spend a dime in any type of marketing. I'm doing it for you.
Right. Yeah, that's too bad. Well, Calvert is a different animal.
Yeah.
It really is.
So I was going to say something else on that too. I forget what I was going to say. The Calvert restaurants are Kingfisher's is doing it again. Ruddy Duck, of course. Hook and Vine and the Lobby up in.
Oh yeah, I know where that is.
As well. Yeah. So, anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that you guys did a really good job of presenting all the different reasons to go vegan. And it was especially helpful for me to also hear like some simple ideas of different foods that you can eat. I know, I mean, I've been vegan maybe about a year and a half, and I still struggle sometimes like finding stuff I can just go to really easily. So it was just really helpful to hear from you about some different ideas of things that are easier. I know Alyssa's done some videos that have been really helpful about easy recipes of different things like the chickpea salad and things like that that are really good and easy to make. So I really appreciate you sharing those ideas, and be great if you could continue doing videos and even information like this about how to eat plant-based. It's just really helpful. So I just appreciate you guys, and you did a really good job.
Thank you, Lori.
Just to say, I will be sometime next week. I have a list of resources that I will be emailing out to everybody that was registered. So there'll be more resources out there being sent out to you guys.
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting.
You know what I love to do? I was just thinking about this. I love to do a Thai peanut sauce. And it's like peanut butter and soy sauce and like rice vinegar or lime juice. And then anything, like I'll do a bowl, like a Buddha bowl type of deal, right? So a bowl of rice and then any kind of steamed veggie with the sauce, and then like sriracha or kimchi. I just like build it like that. And the other sauce I really like is just like a cashew cheese or a cashew, like cashews, lemon juice, a little pinch of salt, pinch of onion powder, blend that up with some water. And that I'll use on anything from like sandwiches to pasta, like an Alfredo with some herbs. So those are my two big sauces. I'm all about the sauce.
Yeah, I actually just learned how to make the cashew cheese sauce, and it is really, really good. I definitely like to put it on like vegetables, baked potatoes. It tastes really good. It's like a really good substitute for cheese.
One of the questions that just kind of came through is if vegetable oil isn't recommended for use, what do you use to saute vegetables? And Starla did answer in the chat that using vegetable broth, also using a little bit of water as well. I just wanted to put that out there in case not everybody can see the chat.
Yeah, that was one of my first questions too, was like, how am I going to brown onions, right? And like, then I just did it, and they browned in the pan, in a nonstick pan. And I felt like, you know, why have I been pouring 8 tablespoons of oil all over my pan every single time I cook, you know? I thought it was like, I mean, you can't fry something without oil, but pretty much everything else, like even for tofu, if I want it to get crispy, I'll just broil it in the oven. Like I have like this formula. I just put a little soy sauce on the cubed up tofu, put it on a pan and broil it for 12 minutes. And it's just like, you know, it's the same thing as an air fryer. You can use your oven in the same way.
I was going to say, I used my air fryer for literally everything. It's like I eat tofu like that with all the time. It's bad. I love it.
And I was going to say, I don't use an air fryer. I don't do anything like that. I got rid of, because of my husband's cancer, I got rid of anything with Teflon. And so I have stainless steel and nothing sticks. I use just a little bit of vegetable broth. And the other thing is, there is a difference, you guys, if you go to the store, especially if you go to the grocery store, between vegetable broth and vegetable stock. Vegetable stock is thicker and richer in flavor. And so if I want something with like a heavier veggie flavor, I do that. And the other thing is thank you, I'm Hispanic, and I love making like Pico De Gallo. And so I put Pico De Gallo on salads, on my baked potatoes, on everything. And so, I just make a big batch of it, and it's so easy. It's just, it's some cilantro, I use red onion, tomatoes, and, I'll squirt some lime in it, salt and pepper, and we're good. So it's, and no, I don't use that. I don't use the jalapenos because it kills me. but I mean, it's so easy to just even go to the store and get, instead of doing stuff like that, you just need to sort of think outside the box. And remember when you were kids and you would be like, ooh, let's just do, let me dip my French fries in, what was the one thing my kids did? They dipped French fries in Frosties. And I thought, that's so gross. But if you start to think about it and you think outside the box, there's a lot you can come up with. And I also, because of the question about the vegetable oil, I just wanted to throw out there, oil is oil is oil is oil. The fat calories are the same in every single kind of oil. So if you're worried about losing weight, and if you're worried about like heart health, and that was my issue, is because I have high blood pressure, and it's a genetic thing. So I have to be very careful with what I do. So I don't use any kind of oil. I stay away from all kinds of oils. And people will ask, well, what about olive oil? And it's like 9 calories per gram of fat, whereas with something else, it's 4 calories. So that's where, just be very mindful of what you're putting in your food. And that's where some people will say, oh, carbs make you fat. No, carbs don't make you fat. It's what you put on the carbs that makes you fat. It's the fat that you eat. The fat you eat is the fat you wear. So I don't care if it's the best olive oil in the world. It's still 9 calories per gram of fat, and that's a lot when you start to add it up. So that's why I said vegetable broth, vegetable stock. Use water. And if you want that, like if you're a French fry freak, which I am, I will chop up some potatoes and then soak them for like a half an hour to an hour in water to sort of pull the starch out. Then I just throw them on a parchment paper, little salt and pepper, throw them in the oven, and they come out crunchy. No oil.
Chelsea, could you repeat the Thai sauce that you were talking about? Somebody had a question about that.
Yeah, so I just do so this would be enough for my whole family to use, and with some leftover, I do like a half a cup of peanut butter and 3 or 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, or you could use if you don't do soy at all, you could use coconut aminos, something like that. And then I do either lime juice or a couple splashes of rice vinegar. And then I think I forgot to mention, I also put like a little sweet in there, like less than a tablespoon of maple syrup or whatever kind of sweetener, if you do agave or something like that. Because it's kind of hitting all the sweet, salty fat, right? You only need really 2 of those, but this has got all 3. So it's very delicious sauce. And you can use it on a cold dish like a salad or cold soba noodles or rice noodles, but you could also use it if you had cooked up some hot vegetables and or a hot noodle dish. Yeah, it's really good.
I have a question about baking ingredients. Are there any good vegan alternatives? Like, if you're baking a cake where there's going to be oil and eggs and stuff, is there any good alternatives for that where it's still going to taste somewhat similar?
Yeah, I think you can kind of like pick which way you want to go here. You could make they have boxed vegan. I guess what I'm trying to say is cake is never usually like thought of as a health food, right? And you could make a healthy oil-free cake. And I usually just use flax, like a a flax egg, you put a little bit of flax and a little bit of water and substitute for 1 egg. Or you could, so those cakes come out like, you know, I would eat healthy whole food cakes, but like I wouldn't serve it at a kid's birthday party where people are unfamiliar with the food, because you're going to come out with some kind of like monstrosity of dense sweet potato cake that everyone's unfamiliar with. Or you could do like the less healthy version where it does contain oil, and just accepting that it's a birthday cake. There are lots of maybe not lots of bakeries around here, but I go to Sticky Fingers in DC, and they've got all their cakes, everything's vegan, and you cannot tell. I mean, it's just amazing. I think they were on like some kind of Cupcake Wars show or something that they won.
were twice on Cupcake Wars. So my husband and I, that's where we got our wedding cupcakes. And this was back before they were in Cupcake Wars, back in 2009 when we got married. I was hoping that there were going to be some left. We got a few extra, and I was hoping that there were going to be some left. There were none. I told nobody. Well, I told my parents after the fact because I didn't want them. The only people that knew were our friends who were mostly vegan at the time, vegetarian, mostly vegan at the time. And they were the ones that came with us to the tasting. And then they were the ones that got us the cup that brought them down from DC, because the one person, he worked up there, and they were willing to bring them down for us. And nobody could tell. They were all gone. We got like a chocolate one and a carrot cake one. And yeah, I was hoping that there was going to be some left when I came back from my honeymoon less than a week later. No.
And no butter, no eggs, no dairy.
Yep.
This is, what is it? Meat egg. And I get this at Giant. They sell it at Giant. And I also get like this energy egg replacer. And like Chelsea said, if you're going to eat a cake, you know that there's just going to be fattening stuff in it. And you just work around it. But yeah, this is super easy. I mean, and it's a Giant, and it's just 2 tablespoons of water to 1 tablespoon of this. And my family doesn't know. I mean, my children are grown. My children are in their 30s and 40s. And they, like my grandkids are like, I have a granddaughter who's 21. So I make her cakes all the time, and she doesn't care. She doesn't, they don't know, they can't tell the difference. So, and just so you know, if you are looking for like a cake, Duncan Hines is notoriously vegan, except for their chocolate stuff. But yeah, Duncan Hines makes, and it's easy. It's a box and it's quick. So, I think the thing is everybody thinks that vegans run around and like we eat bark off the trees, and, we don't ever eat. I mean, we eat junk food. We're human beings. We do the same thing everybody else does. There's just no, like I always tell my friends, there's not a graveyard in my stomach. And one of the things that I will tell you, and I'm sure like Lori and Kathy, Chelsea and Alyssa will tell you, that there's something that happens to you, and I don't know what it is and I can't explain it, but there's just a sense of calm when you sort of take the animal products out of your diet. You get a sense of calm. And when I was in the study at PCRM, that was a huge deal. Everybody felt it. There's a sense of peace that comes over you and it's very hard to explain and put into words. And because I do holistic medicine, yeah, we talk about karma and things like that. And we stay away from animal products. It's, you really get a sense of, feeling very grounded and very peaceful. And that was something I wasn't expecting. But yeah, we eat trash. I mean, Alyssa and I have eaten, we've eaten enough garbage when we're hanging out.
I'm the opposite end of the spectrum from you two, because I'm like, yeah, I want some French fries and some potato chips, and yeah, because I love eating vegetables. I do. I eat a ton of them, but at the same time, I don't really have a sweet tooth, so I kind of make up for it in, let's just eat a whole bag of French fries. Yeah. Those are so good, Kathy. I wanted to tell you guys before we forget, back to the bakery and stuff, like, or baked goods and desserts and stuff. I don't know if you've seen her yet. She's called Wilma Bakes Cakes in DC. She's fairly new, I think like early spring. But she ships like overnight shipping, and I've ordered from her, I think 5 or 6 times now, and she everything is phenomenal. So cupcakes, cookies, banana breads, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not like the sweet, so I don't do a lot of baking and stuff like that and dessert. So when I do have to get stuff for, for birthdays, I go to her, and she's just phenomenal. So if you want to try, and she sends like a care package of a variety of different things. So if you want to try, different types of cookies and cupcakes and stuff like that, just check her out. I think she's only on Facebook. It's Wilma Bakes Cakes. And the fact that she ships down here is a huge help if you can't get to DC, because I love sticky fingers too. So if you can't get up there, check her name's Robin Walker. She's phenomenal.
And I'm a baker, and I've done a lot of vegan cakes for here at work, because we have a few people that I work with either allergies or are vegan. And ironically enough, Pinterest is very good for finding recipes. That's my go-to for recipes. I am kind of that camp where I do have a big sweet tooth. If I'm going to eat cake, I'm just going to eat cake, and I'm going to just accept that as my one time. But there are a lot of different substitutes for like the oil and the eggs. I've used the Chia Eggs before, like some chia seeds, some water, let it sit in the fridge, and that works very well. Was it Isa? Was it Moskovitz? She does the Essential Vegan. She does a lot of cookbooks. She has a lot of great baking books. I use her Vegan Cupcakes Take Over the World a lot. And I want to say the library has those, because I kind of put in to order a lot of those baking books. And she does a very good explaining of when you're substituting. Like if you have a tried and true recipe that you like, she does a very good way of explaining why you're using a certain, kind of looking at the recipe, like, okay, what does this do in the recipe? What's a good substitute for that, for flavor or for texture? And that's another thing as a baker. Sometimes, when you're looking, you're having to, you're going to have a different type of texture in some ways. And that a lot of that is having a quicker time of when you start taking out the eggs and some of the oil, and some of that is having to get it into the oven quicker to not lose the fluffiness texture, because you're having to beat in the air you're not overbeating your batter, but also getting it into the oven quicker, depending on what you're doing. I'm not a bread baker like Chelsea, but when it comes to like cakes and baked goods and muffins and that sort of stuff, there is that time where you have to get in quicker so you don't lose that air that you've beaten into the baked goods. So yeah, Pinterest, the Isa Moskovitz books. She does a lot of great baking books. She has a pie book, a cupcake book, a few other ones that are really good as well, that I kind of go to all the time. Any other questions? We still have a little bit of time for questions.
I think the other thing too, just one more quick point, is whenever you're, especially with family members that you're trying to, that might not be, on board, or, or like, not to make a big deal about stuff. So if you're cooking something new, or if you're trying something new, not to say, this is vegan, because then automatically everyone's like, ah, no. So I think that the thing that I hear the most too is just, I fed this to my child or my husband and he didn't even know, and he loved it. He loved it. And then after the fact, he was like, oh, what was that? And she's like, oh, I told him this. And then he was like, oh, well, it wasn't that good. I'm like, no, that is not true. It's only because you have this perception that, and for good reason, because a long time ago, or not that long ago, a lot of vegan stuff was terrible tasting. And so, but now it's totally redeemed itself. So I hate to see people get scared away because there's still that conception of everything, or misperception of everything.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And like I said earlier, this has been recorded. I will get it up at some point this week. Once I talk to the people that get that up on our YouTube channel. I will be also emailing out some resources that were collected by all of our presenters and myself. And please feel free, look in the library catalog. We do have lots of different books through all 3 counties of the library, Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's, that can be transferred to any of our library branches that you use. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me. You'll have my email link, or my email from when I emailed the link, and I will try to get you a timely answer. So thank you again so much for coming.